It's Monday, May 11. This is the news on PBCJ. I am Simone Absalom. Jamaica now has 502 positive cases of COVID-19, with 4 new cases occurring over the weekend. According to the Ministry of Health and Wellness, Jamaica now has 38 imported cases, 190 contacts of confirmed cases, which includes 25 cases import-related. 60 related to local transmission cases not epidemiologically linked. 95 are contacts of employees of workplace cluster in Portmore St. Catherine, and 10 are contacts of confirmed cases under investigation. Additionally, there are 24 local transmission cases not epidemiologically linked, and 250 cases are under investigation, including 224 linked to a workplace cluster in St. Catherine and 26 others. Some 303 of the confirmed cases in Jamaica are females, and there are 199 males, while the ages of all confirmed cases range from 2 months to 87 years. There are 416 patients in isolation, and 129 individuals are in quarantine at a government facility. Starting this week, eligible persons wishing to be tested for the coronavirus or COVID-19 can make an appointment through the jamcovid19.moh.gov.jm website.
We have made some decisions as it relates to collecting more samples in the general population in terms of persons who are going to be admitted, as well as using the COVID-JAM
appointment
system, allowing the general public to apply to do testing.
Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton says the Ministry of Health and Wellness has also expanded its testing options to include all admissions to hospitals. Meanwhile, reported low levels of testing over a 3-day period due to shortage of tools needed for diagnostic testing for COVID-19 is being rectified.
The universal transport media, that's a made-up one that comes with its own swab stick and media. Those are low. What has happened is that the UWI has been asked to prepare the media, the tryptose phosphate media, and so those are made up. We have asked for 2,000, but so far we have not gotten all of those, and so they are going out currently. The field I'm actually been on calls since morning with so far 2 regions, and they have a small amount, but they are getting them in.
I don't want the impression to be created that we were out of a particular material, and therefore that resulted in the low number of testing. I think it's fair to say that we did run low, and we're facilitating the increased numbers as it relates to the material.
Persons collecting their cash benefits under the COVID-19 allocation of resources for employees program, the CARE program, stood in lengthy lines for long hours to collect funds disbursed through remittance services.
According to health recommendations, one of the most effective ways to contain the current COVID-19 epidemic is to avoid personal contact. This is not evident in the lines outside of remittance services. Data from the National Financial Inclusion Strategy indicates only 30% of Jamaicans reported savings through a regulated financial institution. It was also stated that 65% of all wage earners received their salaries in cash. In line with these indications, most banks are recommending the use of online banking. A number of financial entities are currently trying to find ways to allow persons to open bank accounts to allow them to carry out financial transactions online. Elderly customers who are among the most vulnerable to COVID-19 are the least likely to understand how or have access to online banking. The elderly will require a lot of assistance to switching to online banking, as chances are they're not used to the digital technology and the means of doing so. In the interim, they're standing for hours to collect their cash benefits under the COVID-19 Allocation of Resources for Employees CARE program. For the news on PBCJ, I'm Gabrielle Thompson.
Plans are in the works to boost the staff at health facilities across the island. Up to 1,000 health aides and other professionals are to be recruited. Minister of Health and Wellness, Dr. Christopher Tufton, made the disclosure while speaking with medical personnel at the Anotobe Hospital in St. Mary. He says the aim is to keep the health sector adequately staffed to deal with the new coronavirus, COVID-19, and other areas of public health. According to the health minister, the additional personnel will help to man the new measures being implemented to deal with COVID-19 over the next 12 months. While at the hospital, the health minister viewed the work on the new isolation ward and engaged with staff at the institution. He used the occasion to meet with community persons who are under a 14-day quarantine due to a surge in COVID-19 cases in the parish. All CXC regional exams will take place in July. That's the decision coming out of the first emergency virtual meeting of the Council of Human and Social Development Education. The meeting was attended by ministers of education, senior Ministry of Education officials from across CARICOM, and key stakeholders, including CXC and the University of the West Indies. The Registrar of the Caribbean Examinations Council, Dr. Wayne Wesley, outlined the administration of the modified examination process for the award of valid grades. He indicated that preserving the integrity of the examinations involved the administration of Paper 1 multiple choice assessment, school-based assessment, and where applicable additional assessment components. The attendants at the virtual meeting also agreed to have examinations administered via an e-testing modality in countries that are equipped with the requisite infrastructure. Where there were infrastructure challenges, candidates will sit a paper-based exam. It was also agreed that CAPE Unit 1 plus previous results will be used for matriculation to UWI for the next academic year. And debate on 2 companion bills aimed at revolutionizing the country's land titling system continues Friday. Leader of Government Business, Senator Kamina Johnson-Smith, who is piloting the bill, says the reformed registration of titles, cadastral mapping, and tenure clarification Special Provisions Amendment Act 2020 and the Registration of Titles Amendment Act 2020 will address insecurity of tenure for persons with registrable interest whose names are not on titles.
That ability to have title is very much part of the ability to collateralize, to monetize land, to use it as security to build personal or family wealth. Mr. President, plainly put, we want to ensure that people with family land, with deadlift, that they can get their names on titles so they can go to a bank or a credit union to get a loan to build themselves and their families. The outcomes being sought are to increase security of tenure, increase the number of titles issued, improve the timeliness of the delivery of titles under the RTA, or to transfer titles to persons who may have an interest capable of registration on a title for property. Mr. President, it's similarly intended to build capacity in the titling system so that applications are processed faster and that they have regard to all interests that are capable of registration, having regard to the circumstances and evidence being reviewed and the adjudication of outcomes, taking consideration and recognizing, perhaps for the first time truly, our cultural and historical context.
The legislation also aims to modernize and simplify the processing and delivery titles. Opposition Senator Fraser Binns, although admitting that it will allow more Jamaicans to own land, says more work needs to be done to reduce the cost of the process.
The Registration of Titles Act establishes the assurance fund into which monies are paid by persons applying to register land for the first time or making possession application, and out of these funds, monies are paid to anyone who has a successful claim against the registration. I've been asking for some time, how many claims have been made against the assurance fund? How much money do we have in the assurance fund? This is information that will be useful for all of us, because the assurance fund, the provision on the rota also says that the monies from the assurance fund, Senator Braham, can be used for cadastral purposes. And so if we accept that a large part of the hindrance to registration of land is survey, but we have the money in the assurance fund. Why not use it?
Senator Johnson Smith requested the suspension of the debate on the measures just before the adjournment of the sitting. The bills were approved by the House of Representatives during its sitting on April 28. Jamaica's judiciary arm will have to make further changes to its operations due to the COVID-19 restrictions which remain in effect across the island. In a media release, the Court Administration Division said all criminal cases in the Home Circuit Court Division of the Gun Court, the High Court Division of the Gun Court, and the Western Regional Gun Court will be suspended from May 11 to May 29. The sittings are expected to resume on June 1. During the period of suspension, emergency matters and matters deemed fit for hearing by the judge will be facilitated via telephone, video conferencing, or any other electronic means. Additionally, bail for persons scheduled to appear before the gun court, which were extended to May 11, will be further extended until June 1. Jurors summoned to attend for the period May 11 to May 29 are no longer required to attend and are discharged without any risk of penalty. No open court matters will be heard in civil cases except for delivery of judgments. Matters in chambers may be heard but remotely or on paper. Regular sittings are expected to resume June 1. As with many sectors, music and live entertainment have been severely impacted by the global new coronavirus pandemic. Shows and tour dates have been cancelled. However, the musicians have not thrown in the proverbial towel. They have instead taken their performances online. The same is true in Jamaica. Lovers of reggae music can tune in to PBCJ on all broadcast and social media platforms for a live reggae show every Sunday at 1 in the afternoon. The show, called Sunday Live, is shot at Pier 1 on the waterfront in Montego Bay, St. James. The conceptualizer of taking a live reggae show to the world on the broadcast and the social media platform came from Lundy Murray. More from Marlon Samuels.
The show, held on Mother's Day, kicked off with Kim Nain. She holds a Bachelor of Laws degree from the University of Technology and a diploma in education. Having excelled academically, she has set her sights on making her mark on the music scene. Included in her set on Sunday Live was her single, I Am Woman. The message is one of upliftment and equality for women.
Pushing down all of your doors. I am woman, fighting battles. So hear me roar, roar, like a lioness.
Despite the corona craziness, I did release 4 songs, and more music is coming. Visuals are coming. I have to big up Frankie Music. I have to big up Dale Virgo. I have to big up Original Richie Poo and many other producers that I'm working with right now. A lot is coming in store. We're going to have to figure out how we're going to navigate through this whole crisis. But there is work coming.
The other headline performer on this week's live show was Portmore native and consummate performer, Siobhan.
ran into you yesterday. Memories rush through my veins. It started to hit me. Now you're not with me. I realize I made a mistake. Whether I'm singing dancehall or reggae, R&B, gospel, whatever, I just bring my soul to it. And I think at this point in my life, I've allowed myself to be that singer. And that's where Quiet Giants, Quintillionaire is a part of that epiphany, as me and management was talking about. So that's where I am now. That's what Chevron Music represents.
The show is shot live on location at Pier 1 on the waterfront in Montego Bay.
Last week you were doing a special on burgers where if somebody came in and bought a burger, somebody within the health sector, the frontline workers, would get a free burger. How did that go for you guys?
That was amazing. The responses we've gotten even overseas. We had people who called in from overseas and ordered burgers and just contributed all of them to Conroy Regional.
That's amazing.
So we spent the week dropping off burgers. We have some videos on our Instagram of people receiving burgers and really showing appreciation. Because really what we are doing is showing them appreciation.
Yeah.
It's not easy in a time of an epidemic for you to put yourself on the front line. And just small little things sometimes just, make people know that you appreciate them and that we are thinking about them. I think at Conroy Regional alone we did like 76 burgers.
Oh, it's a duty. Shape the future when we teach all the fighters keep.
One of the things we've been doing through all our shows is to push the donation link. So go to GoFundMe.com/Sunday Live. We're raising $1,000 to donate masks to the St. James Infirmary and to a battered women's shelter here in Montego Bay.
For the news on PBCJ, I'm Marlon Samuels.
Quiet giants, you don't see them, but you see the work they do to serve us all.
Island Society for Promotion of Artistic and Cultural Education, Island Space, a non-profit organization in South Florida, is on a mission to elevate the profile of Caribbean art, history, and culture. The proposed Caribbean Museum of History is tentatively named the Island Archives. The collection will be including artifacts and relics depicting the history of the Caribbean. The campaign is underway, seeking donations of a minimum $25 from 1,000 people by the end of May to make the Island Archives Caribbean Museum of History a reality. And for the latest in the stock market, financial and business news, let's join Gabriel Thompson for the business report.
In Friday's trading session, the JSE combined index advanced by 5,427 points to close at under 400,000 units. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 79 stocks, of which 33 advanced, 31 declined, and 15 traded firm. The junior market index advanced by 50 points to close at under 3,000 units. Stocks advanced for 138 Student Living Jamaica, Access Financial Services Limited, and Caribbean Cement Company. Stocks declined for AMG Packaging and Paper Limited, Blue Power Group, and Cargo Handlers Limited. Trading firm were Barita Investments, Siboney Group Limited, and Consolidated Bakers Jamaica. Trans-Jamaican Highway Limited was the volume leader with 5.3 million units, followed by Pulse Investments Limited with 4.2 million units, and General Accident Insurance Company Limited with over 2.6 million units. Now for the foreign exchange. The US dollar on Friday, May 8 ended trading at $146.07. The Canadian dollar sold for an average $104.79. The pound sterling traded for $179.63, and the euro ended trading at $161.09. Oil prices fell on Monday as a new wave of coronavirus infections in some countries and concern over a persistent glut cancelled out support from supply cuts by the world's biggest producers. Brent crude futures dropped 74 cents to $30.23 a barrel. West Texas Intermediate crude slid 55 cents to $24.19 a barrel. And that's it for the business report on PBCJ. I'm Gabrielle Thompson.
In regional news, countries now have access to guidelines on how to maintain community-based healthcare in the context of COVID-19. The guidelines were published on the weekend by the World Health Organization in partnership with UNICEF and the International Federation of Red Cross. Director General of the World Health Organization, Tedros Ghebreyesus, says while each country has to have tailored approach in their response to the COVID-19 pandemic, the practical guidelines will help healthcare workers carry out their jobs.
It includes practical recommendations for countries on sustaining essential services at the community level, leveraging community health workers for the response to COVID-19, while keeping them safe, and advice for how to adapt services for specific diseases and age groups. For example, it suggests using telemedicine wherever possible and leaving insecticide-treated nets for malaria at the door of households instead of asking people to collect them from a central location.
The WHO boss says the vulnerable members of society must be considered in all health system plans.
Crisis can exacerbate existing inequalities, which is demonstrated in higher rates of hospitalization and death among certain populations in many countries. We must address this now and in the long term by prioritizing diagnosis and care for those who are most at risk. This is not only the right thing to do.
In Barbados, debate is ongoing about whether or not students should still sit the common entrance exams. Classes, exams, and other academic events have been impacted since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Some educators are of the view that the Common Entrance or 11+ examination should be held this year. However, they've made it clear that social distancing and all other directives by the Ministry of Health and Wellness must be adhered to in order for that to be done. The exam was scheduled for May 5th, but was postponed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The Ministry of Education has not yet announced a new date for the exam. Speaking on the current affairs program, The People's Business, last night, former principal Jeff Brooms said there were enough schools and teachers to facilitate the exam.
I have to have a common entrance exam. You have to have it. I don't see how you cannot have it. I'd like to answer your question. Let me use Alexandria.
But the scientific evidence this year says you cannot have it face to face.
I am going there with you. That's what I'm saying. I'm going to use Alexandrian example. A school with about 900 children who come there every day. On Common Entrance Day, 100 children are there. You got about 40 different classes. Put 5 in a room, and you can have them separated all over the place. You can have 10 in the hall. You don't have to have all of them bunched together. I am sure with creative thinking, you can organize your school so all the children are taken care of. You know, a classroom that normally sits about 30, 35 can hold 4 or 5.
Dr. Ian Marshall, lecturer in educational leadership at the University of the West Indies Cable campus, said talk of abandoning the 11+ at this stage should not be entertained.
Is that the 11+ program does not start in class 4. The 11+ exam starts in class 3. It's a 2-year program basically. But not 2-year in the sense that you do have for the curriculum in class 3 and half in class 4. So you have a whole set of parents, you have a whole set of teachers who have legitimate expectations. And those legitimate expectations are that the exam will be conducted and that those students will be allowed to go to the schools of their choice. So you cannot talk about abandoning the 11+ at this stage because, again, it speaks to the issue of the students having a legitimate expectation and the parents also have a legitimate expectation. And it would be a very brave person who seeks to abandon the 11+ at this stage, because again, you are treading on you're treading now on dangerous ground. Because how can you say to a child who was preparing for all infants A all the way up through the school, he or she has gone into class 3 or 4 and has his or her eyes set on going to a particular school and working assiduously to that end. How can you deny that person that?
However, the educators have made it clear that anything that would put teachers and students at risk should be avoided. Education authorities, they say, should also be guided by the science and the advice of medical practitioners before the official reopening of school plans.
Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Dr. Keith Rowley, has hit back at the opposition leader, Kamla Persad-Bissessar, for what he says is her attempt to have the country sanctioned for her own political gain. Dr. Rowley was responding to Mrs. Persad-Bissessar, who called on Dr. Rowley to come clean on his meeting with Venezuelan Vice President Delcy Rodriguez 2 months ago. Here's more in this report from Ian Watson of TTT News.
That flight, the passenger manifest also shows one Vincent Santana Migliacion, Vice President of PDVSA Gas. If this is true, I don't see what they came to talk about COVID. These are people out of the petroleum company of Venezuela, the president and the vice president. It may be that it may deserve a police investigation, but I think it goes beyond just matters in our domestic purview. They also serious matters with serious international implications.
And because a plane that brought the vice president here has an American sanction that we didn't know about, you are going to call for sanction on people of Trinidad and Tobago? You are a traitor, lady.
The Prime Minister accused the opposition leader of seeking to have this country sanctioned for her own political aspirations and is desperate as the general elections are due later this year. He explained that many heads of state have visited this country before, but the government doesn't usually ask about flight information.
If it turns out that the aircraft that the Venezuelan delegation came on is an aircraft that was identified by the United States, that was unknown to us. Because we do not normally ask the presidential delegation what aircraft you're coming on, who owns the aircraft, and so on and so on.
He said the vice president of Venezuela was appointed by her government to head a COVID-19 task force, and no one from the Venezuelan delegation was introduced as an official of PDVSA. The Prime Minister reiterated the government's position on Venezuela is that of CARICOM's, in that the region recognizes the Maduro government.
And what the UNC is trying to do is to stir that pot, to upset the United States, hoping that they take deleterious action against Trinidad and Tobago. That, to me, is not just a fifth columnist. That is an underminer that is dangerous to everybody in Trinidad and Tobago.
Dr. Rowley is asking who the opposition leader is actually working for, as her actions cannot be for the good of the country, and describes her as a popular Hollywood character.
And it's gone beyond the diary of a mad, failed politician. Yeah. You know, Madia is not in the parliament. But the threat is there. If I had contact with the producer, I would call him and tell him we have a Madia here for him.
He said the relations between this country and the U.S. are strong. Ian Wason, TTT News.
Over in Guyana, the national recount of the March 2 general and regional election results continues. InfoHub's Valencia Valenzuela filed that report.
The recount on day 3 was much smoother and, from all accounts, started on time.
I just wanted to take a look at some of the security measures and to talk with some of the security personnel that are oversighting the entire process. That is the security of the building, the security of the personnel within it, and a number of other things. I've done that, and I think the process is going pretty well right now.
Well, inside everything, get a nice start, early start. The boxes are in the stations. The stations is going through the process. So this morning it's a smooth start off.
Today started on time. I think we're all getting better. Everyone, the GCOM staff, as well as the observers and the agents. And so we started on time every single day. We work out more and more of the kinks.
Minister Patterson says the process, though, remains slow.
The process remains slow, and tedious and painstaking, which we all know. But I'm pleased to say even everyone is saying that it was not really a deliberate act by anyone to slow down the process, just how it is.
The GCOM chair on day 2 made a decision to have tabulation done at the end of the day. Minister Patterson says there needs to be some clarity as to what time the last ballot box would be counted.
We still have to resolve an issue officially with, which I hopefully GCOM will make a decision today, the opening of the last box in the evening. It was our understanding that you wouldn't open a box after, say, 5:30, 5:45, because on average a box is taking 2 hours. But if it takes 2 hours and you open something at 5:45, you won't be finished till after the mandated curfew hours. So sometimes, even yesterday afternoon, there was a bit of an issue because I think we stood our grounds that it was actually 5:50. Somebody was saying let's open one more box, and we said no, you can't do that. We had an agreement.
On the matter of a deceased person's name showing up on the list, party agent and Minister Simona Brooms said this is precisely why the APNU-AFC wanted the list sanitized before the elections.
It was the coalition government who were calling for the list to be sanitized from day one, from Jump Street. Hadn't the list been sanitized, we would not have been here to object to any dead person voting or anybody that is living overseas, any migrant voting on the list. And that is why from the outset, the coalition, we want a credible election.
Well, the morning session would have ended just after 1 o'clock, and the PRO for GCOM updated the media on the morning's proceedings.
So far for today, we have completed a total of 17 boxes, 4 in Region 1, another 4 in 2, another 4 for Region 3, and 5 in Region 4. So as of now, we've just completed a total of 17 boxes so far for today. As you may be aware, they would have started that tabulation exercise yesterday, though it started late. What they were able to complete, were able to complete a total of 23 SORs, 14 from Region 1 and 9 from Region 2. So this afternoon, based on the decision of the Commission yesterday, that tabulation process will continue from 5 p.m. to 6:30 p.m.
Continue to stay with DPI as we bring you more coverage of what's taking place at the Artichoke Conference Center on the national recount of ballots on the March 2nd, 2020 general and regional elections. Felicia Valenzuela with senior videographer Paul Bridgemohan.
In sports, we're on the field with football. The hexagonal qualifying matches for the 2022 FIFA World Cup in Qatar could be suspended due to the disruption that the COVID-19 pandemic has caused in the sport. The COVID-19 era has brought major events across the world to a halt and impacted scheduling of events by sporting organizations, including CONCACAF. Basketball players in New Providence, Bahamas have pitched in to help mitigate the strains brought on by COVID-19. Charles Fisher of ZNS News reports.
The sporting world lending its support. The New Providence Basketball Association handing out an assist to help members of their league. Cars pulling up to get their care packages. It was a total team effort from players and executives. All in all, a winning shot. Bags of grocery given out. Nicely designed NPBA logo bags. Cars pulling up and getting their groceries. Even the young lending a hand. League executive Moses Johnson on how this all came about.
This item was the brainchild of the president and the team Next Level. We're just so happy to be a part of this community outreach for our players and coaches, because we know at this time it's rough. I know with the COVID-19 pandemic going on, people are losing their jobs, people are not working. Some people and our players and coaches come from a large range in demographics, so we just want to go out there and help in any small way we can and give back a little bit of what they give to us, because they make the season and they make the league what it is.
One thing for sure is that this COVID has really brought everyone together.
They say hard times make tough people, so we've bonded together, and it's brought everybody together. And I hope that this effort and this community effort is something that can bring the teams together, and that can show that from the executive standpoint that we stand with them and we're in this fight together.
And when this is all over, all legs and hands will be ready to bounce and roll.
Once the go-ahead is given, we'll be able to get back into the swing of things. There may be a few tweaks or adjustments made to the schedule and length of games, but we'll see how it goes. Once everything is all cleared and given, we'll definitely let everybody know what's going on.
Nice gesture from the New Providence Basketball Association. Keep up the good work, and looking forward for the return of basketball. I'm Charles Fisher.
And that's the news on PBCJ. I'm Simone Absalom. Continue to play your part in this COVID-19 pandemic. Stay home as much as you can. Follow government protocols and stay safe.